satisfy people's curiosity or to seek popularity. He responds to the two apostles with an illustration, saying, "The hour has come for the Son of Man to be glorified. Most truly I say to you, unless a grain of wheat falls to the ground and dies, it remains just one grain. But if it dies, it then bears much fruit." John 12:23-24. One grain of wheat might seem of little value. Yet, if it is put into the soil and dies as a seed, it can germinate and in time grow into a productive stalk with many grains. Similarly, Jesus is one perfect man. Still, by his being faithfully to God till his death, he will become the means of imparting everlasting life to many who have a similar spirit of self-sacrifice. Thus, Jesus says, "Whoever is fond of his life destroys it, but whoever hates his life in this world will safeguard it for everlasting life." John 12:25. Jesus is not thinking of himself only, for he says, "If anyone would minister to me, let him the temple cleansed again." Matthew 21:12-13, 18, Mark 11. 12-18 Luke 19. 45-48 John 12:20-27, 240 Follow me, and where I am, there my minister will be also. If anyone would minister to me, the Father will honor him. John 12:26 What a reward! Those honored by the Father will become Christ's associates in the kingdom. Bearing in mind the great suffering and agonizing death that awaits him, Jesus says, "Now I am troubled, and what should I say? Father, save me out of this hour." But Jesus does not want to avoid accomplishing God's will. He adds, "Nevertheless, this is why I have come to this hour." John 12:27 Jesus is in agreement with all that God has purposed, including his own sacrificial death. Jesus curses a fig tree and cleanses the temple to impart life to many. Jesus must die. Why does Jesus expect to find figs, though it is not yet the normal season for them? Why is it appropriate for Jesus to call those selling in the temple robbers? How can Jesus be compared to a grain of wheat, and how does he feel about the suffering and death that awaits him? 103-241 At the temple on Monday, Nisan 10, Jesus is speaking about his approaching death. Concerned about how God's reputation will be affected, Jesus says, "Father, glorify your name." A mighty voice from the heavens responds, "I have glorified it and will glorify it again." John 12:27-28 The people nearby are bewildered. Some think that they heard thunder. Others say, "An angel has spoken to him." John 12:29 However, it is Jehovah whom they just heard speaking. And this is not the first time that humans have heard God's voice in connection with Jesus. 3.5 years earlier, at Jesus' baptism, John the Baptist heard God say of Jesus, "This is my Son, the Beloved, whom I have approved." Later, after the Passover of 32 CE, Jesus was transfigured before James, John, and Peter. Those three men heard God declare, "This is my Son, the Beloved, whom I have approved. Listen to him." Matthew 3:17. 5 But now, this third time, Jehovah is speaking in a way that many can hear. Jesus says, "This voice has occurred, not for my sake, but for your sakes." John 12:30 It is proof that he truly is God's Son, the foretold Messiah. Moreover, Jesus' faithful life course both exemplifies the way humans should live and confirms that Satan the devil, the ruler of the world, deserves to be executed. Jesus says, "Now there is a judging of this world. Now the ruler of this world will be cast out." Rather than being a defeat, Jesus' approaching death will be a victory. How so? He explains, "Yet I, if I'm lifted up from the earth, will draw all sorts of men to myself." John 12:31-32 By means of his death on a stake, Jesus will draw others to himself, opening the way to everlasting life. In response to Jesus' comment about being lifted up, the crowd says, "We heard from the law that the Christ remains forever. How can you say that the Son of Man must be lifted up? Who is this Son of Man?"